Good evening, Super League fans. Welcome to round two. In the studio tonight with me is our blog author and Swindon manager, Steven Fyfe. Hello, Steven.
Evening, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm not too bad at all, thank you. Good evening, everyone.
I can see on the chat we've already got a couple of people that are eagerly anticipating the start of tonight's action. So I think we should dive straight into it. I mean, obviously we've had our midweek show. If we just want to touch on maybe a couple of the games from last week, anyone that stood out to you? I know that Palmer and Ryan were already over it on Tuesday, but was there any of these that stood out to you? Stood out for you in this one, Stephen?
I mean, obviously the Ardsley Celtic result was very good. I was actually really impressed with Churchtown as well. I think their result almost went under the radar because of all the other great results there were. But basically, anyone that played at home was superb. I don't think you can underestimate the result for Palmer's either, given that they were playing an unknown quantity almost. So yeah, well done to all the teams that won on the opening day.
Yeah, I think it would be fair to say that even, I mean, I don't want to point out yourself or anyone else, but I think Valen were probably our Swedish contingency were probably the one of the few teams that did kind of okay away from home. But and obviously it's a reverse fixture this week, so everyone who was away from home last week are at home this week. So we'll see how it goes. I'll bring up the fixture list for everyone to see. As we touched upon last week, we're going to go in reverse order so that we don't have BTEC in our first game of the night every day. So we're going to start off with Valen United against Bolton Phoenix. Let's have a look at the Swedes first. Their squad and their lineup here. So they were perhaps a little bit unlucky at Chotley last week. What do you think? Shevchenko's back from injury. That's gonna make a difference to them, isn't it?
Having Shevchenko in your side at any time will obviously make a difference. I agree, and yes, you're right. They were about the only team away from home that did themselves anything that resembled justice. Deserved the new award that you gave them in the blog. And you look at their team; that they're a decent outfit. So I expect big things from them.
Yeah, well, we'll see how they fare against Chutley here. Sorry, against Bolton here. If we have a look at the Bolton side, let's have a quick look here. I'm trying to get all the surnames right. If we had a look at the Bolton side here, they've made a couple of changes. The tactics are the same. I was a little bit surprised. This looks more like a home tactic to me, but Ryan's going with it away as well. What do you think? Is it a little bit overambitious, or do you think he'll be able to pull one off here?
No, I vaguely remember him saying that he was going to go all out attack for as much of the season as he could. So I'm not surprised by this. Um, I'm looking at the team, and I mean, I'm obviously not one to comment given that I didn't have a great start, but based on what I know from the Super League, the only one I'd possibly be looking at would be Zambrotta in place of Figo, maybe. But Veron is obviously the difference maker in this team.
Yeah, he certainly was a key player for them in last week's encounter. Shearer and Alex are in for Fowler and Dalmat. So I mean, Dalmat, I'm not his biggest fan, I guess, but Alex is a decent player. A little bit surprised to see Shearer get a run after Fowler had I think a decent second half last time. I mean, I think he was meant to have been taken off at halftime, but someone forgot. And he in the end he actually ended up with a goal, I think.
He did, and I think he's somewhat unfortunate to be dropped, but yeah, clearly, I mean, again, Shearer, he was in the original version of the Super League in the first couple of years, and we all know what he's capable of. So I'd kind of see that as like for like, and I don't think they'll be weakened by making the change, but equally possibly not strengthened by making the change.
That's a fair point. Let's see if I can manage this. I do apologize to all our faithful listeners who may have been used to the previous chairman and his slick operation of. That's not looking good, is it? His slick operation of the system. Let's have a quick look here. If you could just bear with me 1 second, I will try and get this.
While you look at that, I can sort of, I'll have a look through some of the comments because I can actually see some and comment back.
Oh yeah, there are people on there already.
Back to the Mickey Mouse is in the building, Timmy. Appreciate that one.
Well, it's always it's always good to have a live audience. I think I passed the technical issue there. So we should be ready to go. I'm not entirely sure why it's not picking up the first game. I thought that would be possible, but let's have a look. Valen United, continue game. Aldred, continue game. Okay, it's not letting. That's a little bit of a downer. I thought it would let me progress to the actual game with the people I selected, but it doesn't appear to be working exactly in that way. So I do apologize for that. Let's see if I can click through everyone here, and we will get back to the. There we go. I think we should be ready now. So if I then select.
Before you continue to the game,
Uh-huh.
the screen's a little small. There's a gentleman by the name of Carl asking about Alex and wants to know a little bit more about him. If you can click on him before we
Oh, on Alex, yeah, I think he's asking about the 568 version, but we'll have a look and see what he is here in the original database, because I think he's the same. Let's have a look at him. He is at Flamingo, so I am not entirely sure. And his real name is Alexandro de Sousa. You can check his birthday as well, Carl. I think that's normally helpful as well. That's the 14th of September. Maybe. So this is interacting with a slight technical issue that is improved by interacting with the community. That's always good. We'll give Stephen Reed a squad number, and we'll confirm the Bolton side as well. And we're ready to kick off. I apologize for the slight delay there, guys. Any predictions for this one? What do you think? Do you see the Swedes getting a result at home, or will Bolton keep it steady in the first half and take over in the second like they did last week?
The one thing I don't see is all the home sides winning again this week. Like we touched on, I think Valen did well despite the result last week. I'm going to say a score draw.
Okay, well, let's kick it off and see what happens.
Yes, evening Joe, evening Rob. Everyone's saying hello to us on the live chat at the same time.
That's very good. So a bit of a quiet start for both sides here. Not a huge amount of golf mile action in the first. Oh, and we're away with the red cards again. Right. That's going to have to be a substitution, isn't it? What are we doing here? Are we going to go a standard two up top, maybe? I did so well with my substitution last week, so I think I'm going to use my initiative here. I am going to take Figo out, put him in goal, and I'm going to move him in here, and I think that's going to be fine.
Yeah, that's I think what I would have done as well.
I mean, we're keeping it steady, keeping a steady ship there. So hopefully for Bolton, they'll have the same. Oh well, a double save by Casillas on the penalty. Yeah, well, chairman's luck for the teams with the guy sent off. Oh, and then it ran out. There we go, Shevchenko with a goal.
He's a big fan of Totti, from what I remember as well. So he wouldn't have been happy with that penalty miss, but he's just made up for it there.
Yeah, he's made up for it there. There's a lot of Shevchenko and a lot of Totti in the screen flashing up here. Shearer getting in there.
There's a lot of Totti in Sweden.
Let's have a quick look here. What's going on at the No, I thought they were going to come up with another goal there just before the end. So I think let's have a look at what happened there with Nick Matulin. Okay. He held the ball. Saviola was brought down. Okay, so he might have not held on to the ball that well anyway. So Saviola won the penalty. Of course, we had to make the substitution. Let's see what the stats are like. I mean, it's difficult to say who's the best side when one side's been with 10 men for such a large portion of the game. Let's have a look at the Phoenix stats. What do you reckon? It's not looking that promising for them.
No, you're right. It's not looking great. And I know we looked at the stats. I thought there was a lot more blue than red as we were watching it live as well. So I was kind of expecting Valen to look a little bit more dominant. But yeah, you're right. It's not a great start for Bolton there. No real sort of standout performers other than Casillas. who obviously has got a high score for saving the pen.
Saving, saving it twice anyway. Anything we can do at halftime? Do you think anything? I mean, Shearer's on a yellow card and a 5, so I'm going to take him off and put Thierry Henry on, and then save the last substitute just in case, just to give Bolton a fighting chance here. If we look at Valen in the first half, they've been quite impressive, I think.
Yes, absolutely. As I say, that they looked dominant from the text display. All the score ratings are high. Can't see anything below a 7 there. So I think
Yeah.
they'll be very pleased with their work in the first half and just hoping to keep it up.
And hopefully they'll be able to hopefully for them, I say they'll be able to see this one home. Let's have a look. See what happens in the second half. It's a shame for Totti with the missed penalty there, but he's obviously rated highly by his manager, but fell a little bit short of expectations there.
You're being called controversial for making a halftime sub.
Yeah, but who's the chairman?
Oh,
And you see, you have to give a bit of a chance, I think, to the team that goes down to 10 men. It's not always the manager's own fault, and they're obviously at my mercy for the initial substitution. So I don't think there's anything. I don't think there's anything controversial with that. If there is, then there can be controversy over the remainder of the season because it's going to continue like that. Anyway, what do you make of this full-time score 3-1?
yeah, I think again Valen performed well and this time got the result that they deserved. You can see from the stats there that, as you'd expect of them having the numerical advantage, they dominated, and I don't think there can be any complaints with the end result.
12 offsides as well. Someone's got a reasonably working offside tactic, and as someone pointed out in the comments there, that's 8 home wins out of 8 possible home wins. Cafu, clearly the most influential figure on the pitch here with 2 assists. That's a good return for a wing back. I think Andreas will be happy with that.
Oh, absolutely. And I think Cafu's one of them players who, even in advancing years, he never gets any worse. He's always reliable and always delivers.
Definitely is. And if we look at the Bolton stats, I mean, they improved slightly in the second half.
Yeah, you can see a few 7s. There's an 8 there as well. I think they'll be relatively pleased that they didn't end up on the wrong end of a hiding, but also they'll be thinking, if we hadn't have gone down to 10 men, would the result have been any different? So it'll be ifs and buts, but you'll go back to the drawing board, I'm sure, and look to make amends next week.
Yeah, could perhaps look. I mean, I know they were up against the Shevchenko and Saviola there, but you could perhaps look at Henchos and Tudor there. They both pick up 6s. I don't think the manager will be particularly happy with that performance, to be honest. But other than that, with the keeper sent off so early, I mean, we can't all have these kind of Ardsley versus BTEC games. So 3-1 probably a fair result, given the number of chances and the early sending off. Peter Green was the referee, by the way, not Mr. Oldham, as as someone was looking out for, because I think there was a guy that was sent off. He was the guy who sent off a couple of players last week. So, but a good result for the Swedish side. Pardon?
So I was just saying, did the referee that was everyone was talking about before the stream not end up refereeing 2 games as well?
He certainly did. He certainly did at the same time. Yeah, I mean that's just one of the things that can happen in the Super League. It's expect the unexpected, but
Even the rest superhuman.
absolutely. Next up, according to the schedule, is yourself. So we'll pop over to the Swindon Devils side here, and we can have a look. So you've made some tactical changes after your slightly controversial defeat last week. You're a little bit more attacking today. What's the reason behind that? Is that a home formation, or what do you base that on?
Yeah, I mean, before we started, I kind of wanted to have a base formation, which was my 4-1-3-2 that I tend to play, but I had the idea of going a little bit more attacking at home to vary it up. But after the hiding we got last week, the 2 centre midfielders have gone for more defensive midfielders just to try and balance it out a bit. But because, as everyone knows, my teams haven't been able to defend for seasons.
Well, I mean, everyone needs to have their own little sort of quirk that they're known by. Perhaps it's not the best, but at least it's something. It's memorable, if nothing else. And Zidane, how important is he going to be for you this season?
He was the one player in the draw that I got that I thought he could be a difference maker, along with Patrick Kluivert. So I'm hoping the two of them can start striking up a balance of goals and assists. I wasn't too impressed with Toe Madeira last week. That's why I brought Huntelaar in.
Hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, he's obviously a good substitution or a good alternative to have. So if we go to have a look at your opponents today, which are the famous well, famous, I say famous, they've only been in existence for a couple of weeks. The Chutley Cannons, let's call them that instead. They've gone different. they've done something completely different for this week. They made a strong start, but Timmy's really shaken the bag here, and he's come out with a completely new formation. Um, what do you make of it? Is it kind of a sink or swim thing he's put out there, or is it a calculated risk he's taking?
No, Timmy's an intelligent boss. What he's done is he's realised my teams can't defend. He's put 3 up there expecting to batter us and got everyone following in behind for rebounds.
Yeah, well, we'll see what comes out of it. I obviously can't be too biased in these cases, but I do like my co-commentator to do well. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case last week, so hopefully you'll have a bit more luck than poor Jamie did last time out. So we'll go and kick this one off and see what happens.
If anyone's going to be the first team to lose at home, it will be me.
You should have more faith. I think you should have more faith. Let's see what happens in the first half. Anyway, we'll get the game underway here. I'll just make sure it's on very fast, and there we go. I mean, there's a first chance of the match was for Chutley, but I think you came back straight back in there. Oh, and
There we
that's a
go.
goal for Ibrahimovic on his debut. Uh, I mean, there's still chances at both ends.
Yeah, but we need to score some. That's the problem.
There was a couple on the woodwork there, and
Yes.
there's Kluivert.
Come on. We're actually playing a lot better than I thought we might in this first half.
I was gonna say you're getting quite a few you're getting quite a few chances and keeping Chotley from away from your end pretty much. I mean you've had the majority of the shot. You've had 7 against their 4. Okay, fair enough. Both teams have only had 3 on target. So on the face of it, that looks quite fair. I take it you're happy with that?
Yeah, like I say, I was expecting the worst with Timmy being my first home game, so I'm quite pleased at halftime.
You're quite pleased with that. I can see a comment here from an Alf Bridge saying Huntelaar didn't do much for me. Will probably score. So you've got Alf backing you for the second half. That's to get another one. What do you reckon to your team's performance at the moment? You mentioned that if you were losing you would like to make a substitution, but I take it you would like to keep it the way it is.
Yeah, yes, please leave it as it is for now. Thank you.
No, right, okay. And Sir Roberto came in. And delivered, of course, for the assist. So got to be happy with that. If we're looking at the Chutley side, that something is not going too well here. I mean, Liverani with a 6, Boomer with a 6. That's unexpected.
Um, I mean, whether it's because my fullbacks are slightly more pushed forward than they normally are, possibly. The one I was interested in was how the goalkeeper performed because he dropped Sebastian Fry for this one. So
Hmm.
then that he's got a 7.
Yeah, I mean, not too bad, I guess. Constanzo's got a 6. I mean, I'm not sure why they both had in one goal on 3 shots, but fair enough. Um, let's have a
Apologies if I can see a few of the comments saying you can hear the pressure and tension in my voice. It's genuine.
Yeah, apparently you can't believe you only conceded one, so that's that's a good thing. Not been very successful with the tackles, I will say, 30%, but we'll kick off the second half and we'll see if you have the same amount of luck in the second half, or do even better. Who knows? Alpha's predicted a goal for Huntela, so let's see if it comes. Unfortunately, it was the Cannons that got off to the better start. But can you get back in it like you did in the first half? It seems as if the tide is not turning as much as it was in the first half. But
No,
Sedan is still in there. So it could be last couple of minutes. It's got to be now or never, I think. Ah, unfortunate. Unfortunate with that. Let's have a look. It was super even. What do you make of that result?
Um, I mean, I'm a bit disappointed not to get a point, but the way it read in the second half, you can't begrudge them the victory. Again, it's just about us not really taking our chances as much as anything.
Yeah, I mean, I would have maybe thought a 1-1 draw would have been slightly better or slightly more, let's say, deserved for both sides here. I mean, you certainly picked up on the tackles on the second half. If we look at the player stats as well, I mean, if you have to identify a weak link, Matt Holland kind of stands out with low tackling percentage, low heading percentage. His passing okay, but he comes away with a 5. That's maybe not exactly what you were looking for.
No, and when you look at Zidane, he got a 5 last week, a 6 this week. It's not ticking early doors for him.
Yeah, I mean, there's maybe something that can be done or adjusted there. Kluivert had a lot of it. I mean, if you got to take a positive away from it, it's got to be that your central defensive pairing of West and Ugo did relatively well, and Kluivert with an 8 and a goal, and plenty of touches as well. So at least he was doing something in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm always one for looking at positives. We scored. We didn't get hammered by 5 like we did last week. So, it's still 2 defeats in a row, though, and still going to end up rock bottom. But then again, it's only 2 games. There's a long way to go yet.
There is indeed a long way to go. And to be fair, I also think, as you mentioned in the introduction, I mean, Chotley, they're probably not going to be beaten that often this season. So maybe it's not a 2-1 defeat at home to them is perhaps not the worst that could have happened. I would have perhaps liked to see a point after that second half performance. It seemed very even. If we have a quick look here, it looks as if Van Bommel really ran the show in the second half. Got a couple of assists there, so um, he's definitely found a good role for him. The rest of them are okay, perhaps defensively. I would say there's a bunch of sevens. That's maybe not so great, but offensively it seems to be working for him.
Yeah, I mean, Van Bommel, Timmy will be delighted because we were actually having a chat in the week. I think it was during the midweek broadcast about Van Bommel, and he said he would be in the top 10 players in the league by the end of the season. So, fair play to him for picking that one up.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's a case of their midfield probably out battled our midfield, and that led to their free in attack being able to score the clinical goal.
Yeah, Matt Holland was a little bit. Yeah, if a perhaps slightly stronger player had been in that position, maybe it could have swung the tide in your direction. But either way, so this is the first away win of the season. So that was breaking that statistic. So a 2-1 win for Chotley Cannons over the Swindon Devils. Unfortunate for my co-commentator. I hate for you to be the one that continues the curse, but that's how it goes. When there's co-commentating duties, then there's also a risk of not a great result. But we'll no doubt see you bounce back next weekend. Moving swiftly on, we're having a look at the Sloths. Um, they did not do well there in their first game. To be fair, I mean, I think they only lost 3-0 to Bolton Phoenix, but they did not have a good start. What do you make of the tactical changes that the manager has made? You can see he's gone very narrow compared to the 3-5-2 thing that he was trying last week.
Oh, he's got all hooligans on us. This could end disastrously.
You think? That's a brave prediction. Let's have a look. Yeah.
They've got a lot of attacking talent in that team. Interesting that Crespo's the one that's been left on the bench. Um, I'd still worry about the distinct lack of arrows. It's as if he doesn't want them doing anything.
Yeah, I mean, this is what he's asked for, so this is what he's getting. I mean, the squad is strong, yeah. I mean, to be fair, I'm not Risp. Okay, maybe I'm not sure. Burns, Yepes, Van Bronckhorst, Pasta, Tsoglu, maybe not one of my favorite players either, but you can't really argue with the quality of the rest of them. As you mentioned, perhaps surprising that Crespo's on the bench, but Brozic and Vieira are certainly not bad alternatives. He'll probably have to rely a bit on Buffon to also get a couple of saves. I don't think he had the best of games last week. Their opponents are Astor Athletic. They had quite a good first game, we can say.
Oh, without doubt, they were superb last week. Again, perhaps fortunate with fate, but I don't begrudge Alf the result. You could see from the stats and the score that they were superb. Alan Smith's a player that I like a lot, and he didn't get the fair crack of the whip, I don't think, in the last version of the Super League. So nice of Alf to let him have a run out, and I like the look of this team.
Yeah, I mean there were certainly goals in it. I mean Del Piero, if you can, Del Piero is like Raul for me. It's not someone that I can get a huge tune out of usually, but Alf doesn't seem to have a problem with it. Ortega is obviously very effective from midfield or from the attacking midfield role. Smith and Hasselbank, proven goal scorers, and he
Yeah,
plays Placenta and Zanetti in perhaps slightly unusual positions, but it worked last week, so we'll see what he gets out of it this week.
absolutely. No, at the end of the day, I can't question anything Alf does with his team. He did really well under Stackington, and it looks like he could do really well at Astor.
Uh, Finalist last year. I mean, you can't really argue with that. With a squad that wasn't fancied by many to be in the final, to do well, but perhaps not to go all the way to the final. So here we are. We're from the Rip and Saucy Knickknacks arena. So well, yeah, sorry for the for the lack of professionalism there, but that does crack me up. Let's have a let's have a look at the first half and see who has the better of that. Hopefully, Somerset's loss will get off to a better start than Hooligans did last week when Campbell got sent off without even touching the ball for a similar offence to what Placenta did unpunished a minute before. But let's go and see what happens. I mean, Astor on top from straight from the off, really,
It's
and
just
early.
looking better, slowly working their way back into it.
Yeah, there was an early yellow card there as well. I didn't see exactly for who, but we could pick that up at half time. Oh, another yellow. I mean, this is a bit more of an Astor or Stackington kind of game, isn't it? Very even, holding to 0.
And the name I'm watching come up a few times is Emerson, and he's a player I like a lot. He could control most midfields in this league.
Hmm. 4 people short of a full house, 49,996. Perhaps not the most exciting first half we've seen this season. Not a lot of it. Not a lot in going in either direction. A lot of throw-ins, 10 throw-ins for one, and 0 for the others. That must be the narrow formations. They're keeping the ball down the middle.
If I remember rightly, did Somerset not have a really boring first half in the first game as well? Perhaps they put all their energy into the first half, stopping the opposition, and then they burn out.
Perhaps it was their thing. You're absolutely right. They had an atrocious first half, but so did Bolton, uh, and against Loss was a terrible first half. But then it picked up in the second half, obviously not in Somerset's favour, but we'll see what they can come up with in the second half. I mean, if we're looking at the stats, they're certainly doing a little bit better. Perhaps disappointing that Rivaldo is looking at a 6. Uh, yeah, if I was his manager, I would expect slightly more. And
Oh,
Risp, who I called out for not liking, is clearly the best player.
a player of Rivaldo's quality should definitely be getting more than sixes. And it surprised me because, again, his was a name that did pop up a few times. So
Hmm.
interesting to see what he did or did not do and what he's done to warrant that six.
Yeah, I mean, if you see on the number of passes completed, he's completed half of his passes, which is kind of disappointing. Um, and if we look at Asta's side, so they've clearly had more of the ball. They've certainly had more passes, but they've also failed to do a lot about it. I mean, we mentioned that we saw Rivaldo and Emerson quite a lot. Both of them had sixes, so maybe we're seeing them from the from the wrong reasons.
Yeah, possibly, yeah.
Yeah, well, and Nesta with a yellow there could maybe be careful in the second half, but yeah.
Good player though, isn't he, Nesta?
Yeah. Okay. Good passing percentage for the Astro Athletic there, but not much else to really comment on in the first half. So we'll kick it off the second half and we'll see if we get some more action.
There's a lot about the first half action that the best bit is the comments coming up saying how much Alf likes tackle and things like
Unfortunate for Hasselbank, he's injured here. We have got a young, super talented Romanian whose name I butchered last weekend. I'll not do it again. Nicolae, perhaps. Um, he did really really well in the preseason games that Alf were playing with him. So we'll see what he has to offer. Nesta still holding it steady at the back with a 9. So we'll see what
He just
impact that has.
the backing players are all doing all sevens. There's no one sort of trying that extra bit of effort.
True. Predictions are that he will get 2 goals. The young Romanian. We'll see. We'll see. It's still fairly even. There's another yellow for Astor. I think it was Boyer there, not fighting anyone for a change.
There we go.
Oh,
There's
and that was Smith.
now what has Somerset got?
Well, that's something. Let's hope for their sake they've got something to get back in it. You did call out Smith as a player you liked prior in the pre-match build-up.
And I believe our friend Carl, who's watching, has pointed out that Nesta may have got the assist for that goal as well.
Yeah, I think he definitely did. It definitely looked like it. So it finishes this. So this is a Stackington result. Last week we had
Okay.
an Astor Athletic, which is perhaps the new thing. This is Alf of old, yeah, a 1-0 victory, super high pass completion percentage, and not that many shots, but all on target.
Yeah, it's almost as if I mean the difference is they won because they're clearly a lot better defensively than my team are. But you're looking at that and you're almost thinking they should be taking more of those chances. It should have been a lot more comfortable than a 1-0 win.
Yeah, perhaps we'll have a look at Somerset's stats first and see. Well, there's your answer to why it wasn't, because Buffon clearly kept them in him, and Risp as well did a good job in defence. There's 9s for both of them. So apart from the fact that they didn't actually create any chances, Somerset didn't play badly here. There's 8s and 9s and 7s. It kind of reminds me of a Sloth side of last year that also tended to get quite a few 7, 8s and 9s and have terrible results. Can't think who managed them.
No, that one's a mystery to me. But looking at the stats, it's almost as if Brozek and Vieri, they worked hard, but Rivaldo didn't give them any service, and that seems to be the problem for Somerset there. That maybe going through the middle, Rivaldo isn't offering what he needed to offer.
Yeah, I mean, from 35 passes to only complete 20 of them and 0 key passes. I mean, we obviously playing through this complete nightmare clump of players here is obviously not easy, but you'd still expect a little bit better from him because other teams do manage it. But if they're keeping him really really tight here, Emerson, then it's obviously difficult to get the ball through to the front too. But we'll see how the Astra team scores were distributed. They've probably got not a lower average, but that's 7 and 8s.
Yeah, and the difference, and it's what you've come to expect from Alf, is you look at that sort of defensive unit, Zanetti, Placente, Babel, Nesta, all 8s. And
Mm.
that's why they keep clean sheets because he's so defensively strong.
Hmm. Yeah. One thing I will perhaps question I mean, I'm not a person to question who the people who designed this game. When we took Hasselbank off at 56 minutes, Nesta was on a 9. After that, he did a bunch of key tackles and got an assist, and he finishes on an 8. So, yeah.
Exactly what Carl's just in the comment.
Yeah, so that's perhaps a little bit surprising, but we'll maybe it was a fluke. Maybe it was a fluke. Let's have a look here. Oh no, it was a Nesta took a run from his own penalty box pretty much, and crossed it into Smith. Okay, yeah. So we've seen it all now. Um, there's not much else to
Steve,
say there.
I would have said Nesta was man of the match.
Yep, you would have thought so. I mean, you're keeping a clean sheet for your team, and then you get an assist. However, 7 shots on target. Buffon saved 6 of them, so I think he was the one who ran away with it from a game's perspective. Anyway, of course, people are able to vote during the week. So if anyone thinks that Nesta was man of the match, then watch out for Fyfe's post with the ratings and the nominations and all this, and we'll see if Nesta can maybe sneak in there instead.
I'd expect him to make at least an appearance in the team of the week vote. That's for sure.
It 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 would make sense, I think. Next off, we're off to Midlothian. So it's Mr. Campbell and his Midlothian Football Club. Again, there's a change in tactics here. Um, it was a tough night for them last night. Last time out. They were away at Palmer's one at the rear. Lost 3-1. What do you think? Do you think the changes that he's made here is gonna are they gonna be successful? It looks like there's a big gap in the middle of the park.
Um, I have to be very careful because obviously I've lost 2 games in a row already, and also the gentleman that was doing this co-commentary last week decided to refer to me as useless for some of my decisions. But I'm looking at that. I mean, I'm a big fan of Addo. Everyone that's seen the Super League before, I don't get him at left wing back at all. Um, Gattuso is almost a guaranteed red card. I don't. I mean, Montero is a quality centre back. Klompe is good as well. I'm not rating it if I'm honest. It's got to me almost like a what's the right way of describing it? A poor man's version of what Tim did to me, if you like.
Right. Well, it could be argued. One of the problems that Ian obviously has with this side is that he's still got Hofland and Kessman injured, so he's kind of limited. I mean, Adolfo is not really good enough to be a second strike, so perhaps that's why he's still sticking with those 2 attacking midfielders and the 1 striker. I don't know what Hofland could really change in the side, but well, we'll see. We'll see what.
Just
we'll,
looking at what I can see, perhaps Kuehl would be better suited to that sort of left wing back, or even Van der Vaart, who's on the bench, would be better suited there.
yeah, we'll see. I mean, Ado's not a bad player. Maybe he can handle it. We'll see. But he's definitely up against it, I think, or up against something with Churchtown Massive, who are very impressive in the first weekend.
Oh yeah, as I said at the start, I pointed them out as a team that impressed me. You just have to look at this squad. I'm interested to see what Romeo does. I mean, he's quietly talking him up as a player who's going to do well this year. Henrik Larsson on the bench is obviously a player I know very well. Um, if Van Nistelrooy doesn't kick start the season well and turns into the Van Nistelrooy that was it at Swindon Devils and at Football Monologue, I can see Larsson taking his place very quickly.
Hmm. He's also got Owen still to come, Michael Owen still to come back from injury, if
Yes,
if he's not
he's
busy.
definitely got a lot of attacking talent there.
Mm.
And Maldini, as we know, he's the one to hold everything together at the back. You look at Maldini and Thuram with Davids in front of them, and you think that they're going to be a difficult team to score against, with
Hmm.
Khan in goal as well. And then
Yeah.
you look at Ben, Van Nistelrooy, Romeo, Larsson, Owen to come back. They've got a lot of attacking players there.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned Oliver Kahn, I think last week. I think we would click on him quickly. I think Patrick Vieira is probably the only player that matches him for 20s in the game. I mean, this is ridiculous, the number of 20s this guy has. But either way, with Thuram, Maldini, and Kahn at the back, it's a strong side. I personally think Midlothian's going to struggle. How do you see this one going?
I mean, again, I want to be careful and I want to be respectful, but if this isn't a 3-goal win to nil minimum to the away side, I'd be surprised.
Mm. Right. Well, we'll kick it off and we'll see how we get on. There are instructions from Midlothian to change Karsten Ramelov if he's useless at halftime. So we'll hopefully for Karsten it won't be that bad. But let's have a look.
Can we make a live appeal to Timmy to stop trying to tap up other people's players? I've seen him after Crespo and now he's after Robin.
Well, I don't think there's any particular rules for it. We don't have financial fair play rules, and we don't have rules about signing under 16 or tapping them up outside the transfer window. Oh, what a start for Midlothian! Did not see that coming.
When you've got a player like Mpenza, you should never rule a team out, I suppose.
He was the top scorer last season, so and a championship winner, obviously. So that's always something. Um, perhaps surprising. I mean, I don't mind admitting it. I thought Churchtown would do better here. What do you make of the first half? I mean, again, fairly even.
Yeah, it's even and under par by Churchtown probably is what you'd expect from Midlothian, and all they've done is they've been that little bit more clinical. But I think it's more a case of Churchtown being under par as opposed to Midlothian overperforming.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the stacks would back up that argument. There's a couple of eights, but mostly sixes and sevens in there. Carsten Ramelov, I probably scared him into into submission. He got an eight and an assist, so he's safe for the second half. He'll be delighted, no doubt, as will his family and everyone else watching. Apart from that, no one really stands out. I mean, Eric Addo. Six passes. To be fair, he didn't give the ball away, but he just touched the ball six times. Does he need to play out there? What's the story with Eric Addo?
I think he's just very confused what he's doing out there.
That might be it. That might be it. Oh, anyway, I mean, there's a bunch of stories in this, but let's have a look at and see whether the real reason for this is over at the Churchtown side. That's mediocre, isn't it? I mean, Jeremy stands out with an eight. The rest is that's not gone well.
Well, you look at the front two, both were sixes, and there's your issue. Again, it's all ifs, buts, and maybes, I suppose. But with Larson on the pitch, perhaps that would be a different story. Interesting that I think that's Koku there with a six after he got into Team of the Week for last week. So
Yeah,
interesting to see how it pans out in the second half.
Yeah, he's at Eric Addo level almost with and you'd expect more from him because he's slightly more natural in that position. But it could all change in the second half. There was really none of the sides really impressed in the first half. So let's see how the second half goes. I mean, I saw Ramilov's name again there, kicking it off. Seems like a bit more coming forward from Churchtown now, but still not able to break it down.
I can see Midlothian taking this 2-0.
You think they'll sneak one at the end here?
Yeah.
Well, they've only got 5-10 minutes left. Well, they kept it. That's an impressive win. I've got to say that. I wasn't sure about the tactical formation. I mean, obviously Shay Given had a big part to play in this with his 9 there. Eric Addo with an 8, putting us all to shame with our comments. I was surprised that this worked out as well for him as it did, but I suppose it's a fair result, I guess.
The couple of things I've noticed so far between what we've witnessed tonight and referring back to last week, there's still not been a draw, which says a lot. But
Hmm.
also, the teams that do really, really well have AMCs that are performing well. I mean, I'm looking at this. Midlothian won, and I believe Kuhl and Graham both got sixes. And
True.
that explains why they didn't win convincingly. I lost. Sudan got a six. Who did we comment? Rivaldo got a six in the other game as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
So if you look at some of the teams that are going on and doing well, they've got players who are getting sort of eights and nines in that position.
So it's a battle of the attacking midfielders against the defensive midfielders that really kind of decides the game
Yeah.
in so far this season. Yeah, so it'll be something that the managers will have to look at tactically, whether they then want to be the attacking side that goes for it and tries to fulfill the potential of that AMC position, or if they want to keep it steady and as Midlothian did and throw on as many defensive midfielders as they can and maybe keep it like that. But you see a guy like Ramelov, I mean, 8 tackles, 5 of them one key tackle. There's key tackles all over it here. Montero and Klumpe full of key tackles as well. So a good performance for them. Churchtown, if we look at them quickly, I think it's going to be a different story. I mean, the back three are doing their best, obviously, Khan, Turam, and Maldini, but it didn't tick for the rest of the team today. It didn't click rather for the rest of the team today.
No, again, and we were just saying about the AMCs there, and when you look at Davids and Jeremy's both getting eights, that kind of sums up what happened to Midlothian. But again, I've mentioned his name a few times. Van Nistelrooy, another six. He'll be disappointed with that.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect more from Van Nistelrooy, depending. You see I mean, I know there's a big difference between the Super League and people's home saves, but you struggle to see a home save where Van Nistelrooy does anything awful. Yeah, so he's usually very very reliable, but it just didn't work out for him today. But yeah, I mean, fair play to Midlothian. They made the changes. They obviously looked at the first result against Parma and thought this we can't be having this for the rest of the season. And Pensa, he's got to be key for any club he plays at. Like you said, he's a key performer.
Yeah, I mean, he's a star at this level. And just from a personal point of view, you mentioned the stadium name in the other game. I'm very much enjoying the Iron Brew Arena for Midlothian. Very nice.
Oh, it's your as anyone who were fortunate enough to watch your Q&As on Friday night. If you haven't, then please go. You need to. If you want to see deadpan delivery, if you want to see great answers to all kinds of very very, I wouldn't say disturbing, but perhaps interesting questions, then you really need to check out Fifey's Friday night Q&A. It was brilliant. And for those who didn't know it already, his favorite drink is Iron Brew. And I mean, I can't say that, although living in Scotland, I should drink it all the time. With if I have a fish and chips, which is probably about once a year, then I do like a can of Iron Brew with that.
Would you have found it easy to answer the Margot Robbie Gary Neville question?
I would have passed on about 90% of those questions, to be honest. I'm not, and I know who's the. I was going to say the brains behind it. That's probably stretching it a little bit, but we'll see Mr. Palmer in action now. He's away to Hooligans. What are we going to make of this?
Um, on paper, I really like the Hooligans team. The problem I have is that obviously we're only one game. They're only one game into this season, but going back now 2 seasons and how they started this season, and yes, Campbell got sent off very early. They're very rigid in their tactics. They don't change it a lot, and they're not getting results from it.
Yeah, I mean it. I think I mentioned it in the last week's show. I mentioned on the midweek podcast. They were third from bottom last season with this tactic, and
Yes,
they persist with it. I mean, I know the squad is better now. The squad is clearly better now, but yeah, I do worry a little bit because everyone else seems to be changing their tactics. For some it's working, for some it's maybe not. But this is yeah. Well, we will see. I will be happy to be proven wrong. Of course, they got Beckham back from injury. He's the captain and probably the dead ball specialist. Hopefully for Thiago's sake, he can make a bit of a difference here. They've put in Gamara instead of Campbell, pretty much like for like, I would say.
the only thing I worry about just looking at that team is I like their attack. I like the midfield. With the exception of Samuel, their defence is very meh. I mean, thankfully for them, they have got Chiotis in goal, who, as we know, he was the Golden Gloves winner last year.
Yeah, I mean that's something that they've got going for them. But I would tend to agree they don't really stand out. I mean Campbell is brilliant, but obviously they're 6 months without him now because he broke his ankle in training, so not much they can do there. Have you been
I
by
actually think Thiago snapped his ankle for being sent off in 3 minutes.
this could have been right. So let's move on to Panathinaikos. Have you been have you had any thoughts about Joe and his team this week? Any comments? Any observations you have with regards to Panathinaikos that you would like to share?
I've had many thoughts about Joe this week, but referring to the Super League, you can't argue with the fact that they won opening week. I hashtag one at the back came up a few times in that Q&A you mentioned, and it works for him. He's clearly worked at it. There's clearly something there in it. And, when you look at the attacking players he's got as well, I think George Gatos at left wing back is a superb player, particularly the first couple of seasons. Um, I, I, I like what he's done with it, to be fair. You can't get much better than Cannavaro if you are going to play one at the back.
Yeah, no, true. And I mean, if we're looking at the spine of the team, if we can call it that, with Cannavaro, Ambrosini, Nedved, Nikiforenko, and then you've got, I mean, Jadel did nothing last week, so he's replaced him with Vasilio, which I think is fair, and then Sandon, who I think got a goal last week, so I think that's a good spine. And then you've got very, very good DMCs either side of Ambrosini, and then you've got Salihamidzic, which I would use someone else, but that's personal preference. And like you say, Jagatos is a good player on the other side. Dida in goal, is that the only place where you would think, can we find someone else for that, or do you rate Dida?
Um, I mean, he's in the Super League because he's a good quality keeper. I personally quite like Paul Robinson. I would probably have him as my number one. But they're both very much of a muchness, I suppose.
Yeah, let's see how it goes. There's not a lot of love for the super narrow formations amongst the other managers. I know that, but we gotta we got to give credit to Alf who came second with a narrow formation last season. So and he's I think still top scorer in the league with 7. I'm not sure. We can check that later. But let's see how hooligans do against the one at the rear, as I've been told that we refer to it as. Oh, we should perhaps up the commentary speed, otherwise this will take a while.
Um, my geography is not great, so forgive me if this is wrong, but Auckland is New Zealand, which means I believe Hooligans are the only team based in New Zealand, which I think was a telling point for Firkham in the original Super League.
I think you might be right there. I mean, Auckland is definitely in New Zealand. I think is it the Kings or something like that, the name of the original team that plays there. Oh, and there's Ronaldinho.
He's a great player both on the game and in real life, isn't he? I've said it time and time again. Ronaldinho is my favourite ever footballer.
Oh, and Vasiljevic with a quick goal before halftime there. I would completely agree with you. Ronaldinho, if he may not be the best football player ever in the world, but if he's not your favorite football player, then perhaps you should watch another sport. I think. I mean, for entertainment, for just his. I mean, how is it 3 or 4? I think he scored of those penalties or free kicks where he rolls it under the wall. Anyway, I digress. What do you make of this 1-1 first half? A little bit more excitement than we perhaps could have expected with many defenders and a super narrow.
Yeah, and I think what has happened here is the players, the saying the cream rises to the top. The players you'd expect to be the difference makers. Obviously, we've already spoken about Ronaldinho there, and as you said, Vasiljuk came in for this one, and I personally feel he's one of the better strikers, if not the best striker Palmer has. So I was surprised he didn't play the first game, but there he is getting his goal.
Yeah. If we're looking at the hooligan stats, you brought up the defense of the hooligans team as being perhaps not the best. The stats would agree with you, I think. Desai getting a 5. That the manager can't be happy with that.
No, he won't be happy at all. And like I said, I was concerned for their defensive capabilities. Obviously, when you're missing someone like Sol Campbell, who is both statistically and consistently so good, it does leave a hole. But it just kind of shows that perhaps during the transfer window, he didn't look at having the right options. I know there's been a discussion throughout the week about some teams have got a lot of good players, and some teams have got a first 11 of great players and then just some backup squad players. It is for this reason why you try and get good players, I think.
So that you can switch things around, so you can have some kind of backup if the so-called bankers they don't come through really. I mean, and Beckham coming back in. Uh, would I have kept Deco? Probably. I don't rate Beckham in many ways, so perhaps that's just a personal preference. Let's see how Parma's boys have done. One at the rear, they've not done anything, but Vesiuk has got a goal.
Yes, and interesting, you obviously started the goalkeeper debate, and we looked at the defensive stats of hooligans, and then you see Didas there with his 8, obviously leading by example at the back.
Yeah, I mean he's doing quite well. A quick question from one of our faithful viewers, Alf Bridge there. Why is Desai getting a 5? If we have a look at it quickly, he's obviously done a lot of passes, none of them key. Um, the tackling to key, it could be a percentage thing. He's also not had any headers at all. And if we go to the second part of it here, nothing. I think it's just inactivity more than anything that's getting him the 5, rather than poor performance as such. He's literally not touched the ball, so you can't really judge him on that. But we'll see what happens in the second half. It was very even in the first half. 1-1, I think, is a fair result. Lots of completed passes. Let's see how we get on in the second half. I mean, with Ronaldinho, okay. Yeah, I was gonna say with Ronaldo and Ronaldinho, it's difficult to keep them from scoring. So and they've proven that.
Could we have our first draw here? Because I fancy Palmer to get another goal.
Well, no sooner said than done. Nicky Forenko with the equaliser.
Wow.
Yeah,
There's Beckham.
Beckham, who I didn't rate. If they're coming straight back. Oh, and what have we got here? It's it's a sending off. Um, this guy out there, I think so. instead of sand, maybe, and just try to. What is it? It's 3-3. I think that I would like to take sand off, possibly, and put this guy on and put him
I,
down
I
here.
I would agree. I'm just waiting to see quickly in the comments if he's put leave it as it is.
Well, we'll leave that for next time then. It's the chairman's instructions. I don't take instructions during the game. I just gotta create a little bit of controversy here. We'll see. See if he wins 4-3. He can think. Well, okay. Never mind. I think I'm gonna be hearing about this for a while, perhaps, but we'll see.
At least it gives you something to write about in the blog for
That's
you.
true, but we can't make exceptions. It's chairman's discretion during the games. He can appeal red cards, I think, and it's not Wayne Oldham who's the referee either. He's still in with a shout, I think.
Wouldn't surprise you. There it is.
There it is. Palmer, I will not hear a word about it. I did the right thing, and you know it. What a game, 4-4. It really turned around in the second half, didn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean it's great entertainment for the viewers. I'm pleased that I mean obviously without seeing the stats yet, I think a draw was a fair result, and I'm pleased that it's ended 4-4. So there was that bit of drama and excitement for everyone watching.
Perhaps a bit unfortunate for hooligans that they didn't capitalize on that, considering how they were capitalized on during last week's game against Asta when they got a player sent off.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the same for anyone who ends up playing again or with a numerical advantage. You always want to take advantage of that, but as we know in real life, if you like, it can sometimes be harder playing against 10 men.
Yeah, I think so too. Let's have a look at the stats of the individual players. Um, uh, Not a good day for the goalkeeper for hooligans, huh? Or the defense even. You touched on that already.
Yeah, I mean, when you see a 4-4, you expect the attackers to be getting good ratings. You can see the likes of Beckham really picked up in the second half, and then you see players that we know are quality at this level, like Shiotis, getting a 5. That's very unnatural.
Yeah, and Beckham, who I perhaps wasn't too kind to at halftime, he ended up getting 2 goals.
Yes, and it's always the way. I think I said about Palmer scoring, and then Nicky Faringo popped up. As soon as you say a player isn't doing well or isn't very good, you know they're going to play well. It's you can change the chairman, but you can't change the game. I think is what.
That's true. I wanted to see Dieter beat the ball away. The Beckham was Beckham. So no, it wasn't actually Beckham taking the free kicks. But never mind. I just wanted to double check that. Let's have a look at the Panathinaikos here. I mean, Niki Forenko. He's got to be happy with him rescuing the result there at the end.
Yeah, and the one thing we did say is we commented on the array of talent in the defensive midfield area that they had. And you're looking at the ratings there, there's 8s and 7s. No one in that sort of unit is scoring low. And again, mentioned the goalkeeping situation. Dida, okay, his rating dropped to a 7, but he got a 7 conceding 4 goals. So it says he's actually played well.
Yeah, I mean, he played. It looks like he only saved 2 of the 6 shots, but either way, perhaps decent. Anyway, it was a very entertaining game. Lots of action. A little bit of controversy around the red card, perhaps. I think it was a second. Was it a second yellow? I think so because he got a yellow right in the beginning of the game. Yeah, slid through Beckham. Okay, fair enough. And Beckham obviously capitalized on that before Nicky Faringo got one right at the death. So that was a good result for Panathinaikos, I think. All things considered, what do you think?
Yes, yes, and we know that Joe is watching on his big screen TV, so I'm sure he's running around the living room now with his top above his head, celebrating a point. Congratulations to both teams. I think, but they both deserve a point, and again, it gives them something to move forward with.
Yeah, I mean, good for Hooligans to see they scored 4. I think it was a terrible one-off last week, but they need to sort out the defense. They've obviously got, as we mentioned in the beginning, they've got plenty of attacking talent, but maybe a little bit more stability at the back would not go amiss, especially when you're up against people like Vasiliuk and Nikiforenko. Then it's not always good to have like Brett Emerton and Gamara and these people. But 4-4, can't say fairer than that. It's a good advertisement for the game, for the Super League, and for everyone involved in it, I think.
Yeah, no, completely agree. Are we the pantomime villains of last week?
Oh no, we're saving them for last. We're saving the pantomime villains and the super unlucky losers for the last one. We're taking Jamie's side here, who'll be they'll be looking to avoid the commentators' curse this weekend. They're at home to Arsenal Celtic. Do you think they'll be able to capitalize on the fact that both of Arsenal Celtic's central defenders are the first choice anyway, are suspended? Do you think that'll have an impact on the game?
Only if his defensive midfielders turn up this week, because Ardsley are one of the sides that you expect to finish very highly, and it's because of their attacking players again. They've got a lot of talent in there. So yes, they're going to have their defensive problems because of the discipline issue last week. But if the Dragons don't defend well themselves, then it won't matter because they won't get anywhere near the Ardsley goal.
That's true. And if we look at the Ardsley side, yeah, similar tactic. I think the changes were Kufre and Woodgate coming in for Lawerson, and I forget the other guy who was Terry. Was the other one who was sent off, wasn't it? Strong side.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at that and I'm thinking player for player, Ardsley are almost better in every position, which says a lot when you look at the DMCs the Dragons have. But Malevsky is a player that a lot of players like, and Vieira, as has been spoken about a lot in the Super League, is a player that everyone would have if they had the chance.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the Sloth season last season would have been a complete, disaster if it wasn't for Milevski. I think I don't know, 9 points or something like that. He secured the team in total. So I definitely rate him. Vieira, I rate him. Seedorf, I rate him. Candela, Sauri, Joe Cole, I no, just no for me. Tristan and Riquelme, they've proven their worth. But what's your prediction? This is a tricky one for me. Well, like you say, they need to get the balls up to the strikers, but I could see a draw in this one. I could see another draw in this one, maybe a low scoring one even, maybe equaling each other out. What do you think?
No, I'm going to go with an away win here. I'm going to say that um, it depends on how. It solely depends for me on how the Dragons defend. If it's like last week, it'll be another 4-5-0. If they turn up, I'm going to say Ardsley by 2 goals.
Arsenal by two. Well, they did win by two with 9 men last week, so it could be a scenario of nothing being able to stop them. But let's see what happens in the first half. We'll let Dragon Destroyers kick it off here.
The thing is, Jamie will be delighted I've said that because obviously the last team I said would get beat by 3 went and won.
Mm-hmm. Um, this this has not gone well for them. It was red cards last week. Now it's an injury. We don't really have any other option than to put Dario Hussein on. What do you think? Should we go two up front, or what do you think he would prefer? Let me see what Tristan does. None of these. It's just Joe Cole as a forward, isn't it?
The other
AMLC
option, you have Fadorf in the AMC role.
could do. But then what would we do with midfield? Should we put on... Right, let me think about this and I'll make an executive decision and then people can slate me for it later. I am going to cancel this. I am going to take this guy off for... I'm not even looking at the comments. I can see it flashing up, but I'm not even going to look at it. And we're going to do this.
Timmy's agreeing with me.
We're going to do this. And we'll have a look at what happens. If Arsley complain, then remind him what I did to his side last week. Chairman's decision. Oh dear. Oh well, it was cancelled. That's fair enough.
Good job
Uh,
VAR didn't exist in this time frame.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's been some controversy around that. Still, we'll see. It was a good. Dragons have done better this week than they did last week for sure.
Well, they couldn't do much worse, to be fair.
That is true. Montella's had a couple, I think, but still yet to. Right. First half. What do you think? That's not what I was expecting from the Arsenal side, to be honest.
No, I think Jamie will be really pleased. I think again, similar to the other game we were speaking about, I think Ardsley have grossly underperformed there. Um, but based on that, you'd be saying that not only are the Dragons very much in it because it's still a draw, but they should be winning, and we'll be disappointed that they're not.
Yeah, I mean, if we're looking at their stats, I mean, perhaps not overly impressive, but they haven't done badly either. I mean, Giggs with an 8, and Giggs did well last week, and Montella's. I mean, he's not putting them away, but he's doing something. So maybe there's hope for them in the second half.
Again, I said about AMCs earlier, and Robbie Keane playing there. He disappointed last week, and he's disappointing again today.
True. And with regards to the Arsenal side, I think that's just disappointment across the board, really, apart from maybe at the back with the goalkeeper and Kufre.
Yeah, we thought it might be difficult for them because they're missing their first choice defence. But again, you're looking at Tristan. I know there was some complaints that Tristan didn't make team of the week this week, but he's not really doing much to prove that he deserved to be there.
Yeah, I mean certainly not so far, but that might all change in the second half. 0-0 at halftime. At least both teams can rejoice in having kept a clean sheet, and they haven't had anyone sent off. So that's a start, I guess. We'll see if we get a bit more action in the second half. I mean there are chances.
There you go. Oh, what did I say? As soon as you're talking about someone,
It's it does not Robbie Keane in that AMC position. Just not good enough. But we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. A lot can happen in the last 25 minutes, obviously. But it definitely looks as if the Dragons have the better of the opposition this time out.
you're welcome, Jamie. Oh wow,
Yeah, we call it
unbelievable.
the Super League. We call ourselves the best managers. When do you think we'll have any of those best managers on in the chairman's chair or the I suppose apart from Boyce, obviously running away with the title last season, but I don't think that. I think maybe I should just stick to talking about the numbers. What do you think?
Well,
Robbie Keane,
I,
how does he look for you in that AMC role after the second half?
I mean, yeah, Robbie Keane's a superb player. He should always play AMC, and Jamie with a tactical masterclass.
Yeah, you can't say fairer than that, can you? But to be fair, to bring up something that you did mention, the performance of the defensive midfielders, they did really well here, and maybe that's also key to getting your AMCs to do well. I mean, you need both of those areas to function. I mean, you can see Kalatza's got a 9. There's a bunch of people with 8s and 9s in here, isn't there? It's really only Giggs for some reason, and then the front two that are perhaps not right at the top of their game.
Yeah, and I don't think you can be upset with a 3-0 win at home, particularly after you got hammered the week before. But I think there's still things there that Jamie will look at and think we could have still done certain things better. But obviously, fantastic performance from Keane. As you've commented there, the defensive midfielders have really stood up to what could have been a difficult test,
Yeah.
and he'll be delighted.
Yeah, I think he plays with. I mean, one of the things I think he tries to get a lot of crosses in from the wings, which is fine. But when Montella has 7 headers and wins 0, and Viduka has 3 headers and he won 1 and Viduka won 0, then perhaps this thing with crosses is maybe. Uh, I don't know. 3-0 is still a good result. I think Jamie will be very, very pleased with that. Let's have a look at Arsenal and see where it went wrong, apart from the substitution, which wasn't too bad. Stankovic got a 7.
Yeah, again, you're looking at Tristan with a 6. So he's not helped his team there. And again, looking at the AMCs, Seedorf and
Cole and
Cole both.
Seedorf. I mean, that's disappointing considering how well they did last week, even with being down to 9 men, and they still scored 4, and then to not score at all at Dragons. I don't think Archie will be particularly pleased with that.
No, not at all.
Not at all. No. With regards to the stats, I mean, they almost had the same amount of shots on target, but obviously Robbie Keane was really the difference here. So they'll be, what did Al say? They'll be singing in the valleys apparently. So we'll thank, well, or we'll say, well, Jamie can thank us for letting him off the commentator's job today, so he could have his win. Well deserved, and a well deserved rest for him. Um,
Yeah,
and um, and hopefully they'll be able to continue that form. We can go back to our slightly controversial side, but we'll start with BTEC, who were maybe at the hands of an equally controversial result. Two red cards for their opponents, and they still lost. What can they do to prove the critics wrong after that game? I mean, we're looking for a strong BTEC performance here, aren't we?
yeah, and I'm looking at the team now, and unless I'm mistaken, Lasisi and Kivu, however you want to pronounce it, didn't start the last game. I'm not sure if they were available or not, but just those two in that position just look so much better for me.
I mean, they'll deliver. I mean, Stam was the standout terrible performer. I think Stam had a 5 last week, and he's definitely been dropped to the bench. Um, I forget who the other central defender was that was dropped to the bench, but I think it was. I can maybe see it here. Either way, it was Saeed. Saeed was the other one, so they both did terribly. So they've both been dropped, and a new left back as well has come in. Danielson, I like him. Should Pizarro be on the bench? What do you think? Is that controversial?
It's not when you look at who he's starting. Again, it's a team that has a lot of good attacking players. When you look at Palermo, Inzaghi, Pizarro, what I'm interested in is tactically he's set them up very similar to me, just with slightly less adventure on the wing
On the
back.
fullbacks, yeah,
But
true.
equally, he's I'm looking at the midfield too of Dyer and Kaluzny and thinking, Agahawa is potentially, whether he interchanges with Danielson is the only way you could potentially strengthen that a little bit. But that's a good squad on paper. I don't think there'll be walkovers.
Okay, and let's see what tactics that Hoddesdon Hornets come up with. They've obviously changed their tactics for obvious reasons that we won't dwell on. I think what should be said has been said, but what is this? What is this? What is this atrocity that great? It works apparently.
Um,
What do you think?
I think essentially it's Hoddesdon trying to do hashtag one at the back without doing one at the back. Um, there's a lot of forward running from the players. I like it, to be fair. I think it's got good balance and shape to it. Um, I'm not sure he's got the DMCs to really get away with it. I mean, I like Makaleli, don't get me wrong. But and then I'm looking at the wingers and thinking there's probably better out there. But then equally, and I know I'm contradicting myself a lot, he did get a very rough draw when it first came about, so perhaps he wasn't able to get the players he would want to play that formation. But I'm not going to write him off. He's a manager with a proven track record of getting results and finishing well. What
Yeah,
he
I
has
mean,
got is a superb goalkeeper, and there are a couple of players there of excellent quality.
yeah, I mean, I had in my notes here, will anyone be able to stop Batiscalco? But he did that himself by putting Tigalco on the bench. So I guess that's not a big problem. He's relying heavily on Batistuta here to get the goals, but I can understand why he does that. Batistuta is quality here. I see a lot of people in the chat are quite quite interested, are quite impressed with the new tactic. But we'll see how he fares, shall we? With our last game of the evening, so it's BTEC at home at the Darkside Park, taking on the Hoddesdon Hornets, and we'll kick off the first half here. And let's see if BT can get a little bit more out of it this week. I mean, they've come off to a good start with Danielson picking
Yeah.
up the.
You said how much you liked Danielson from your time at Sloths last year.
I like him in general. I think I've always managed to. I don't know. It's kind of like there's a lot of people who don't like him. I don't like Raul and Del Piero. I always got something out of Danielson. It's kind of the other way around for a lot of people, I think. And here's Dyer, and that's an injury for Scholes. Uh, we're going to have to put Ljungberg on there, aren't we? I mean,
It makes
realistically,
sense.
where is he? Paul Scholes, Freddie. I mean, I don't rate Freddie, but that's who's on the bench. So he's the one who's suitable for that position. So we'll see how that works out. They're obviously going to have to do much better. And it's still all BTEC here. Still all BTEC coming up to the end of the half.
He'll be delighted with the first half performance.
Definitely after letting in 4 goals against 9 last week, he's not let in a single one against 11. That's perfect. That's perfect for him. Let's see what the stats are. I mean, it's it's a good result, I think, or a good, not maybe not result yet, but it's definitely a good performance in the first half. Insist for Christian Kivu and for Inzaghi, and a goal by Danielson and one by Kieran Dyer. He doesn't get many, but that's got to be positive.
Dyer's a player with a track record in the Super League. He's classed as a DMRC from memory, but no one ever plays him there. He's always playing in more of an AMRC type position generally. But yeah, Tech will be delighted with that first half. How much of it is down to the squad turning up, and how much is down to Hoddeston's, crazy all-out attack?
Experimental tactics. I mean, let's see what. Yeah, that's perhaps not worked out as well as one would have hoped.
No, there's a few fives in there as well for players. I believe that's Lucio and Makaleli. Probably the two players you wouldn't say would get fives are the ones that got fives.
And the ones that got fives, yeah. And Batistuta has had 4 shots, but he's failed to score with any of them. Lundberg, to be fair, has done all right since coming on, but he's not getting anything out of anyone. I mean, Donny, Lundberg done okay. Goalkeepers not made a mess of it. To be fair, I mean, chances. Looking at chances, there's not much in it, but they've just not taken them. So Danielson's really been there, and Dyer, the 2 goals there were really the difference. But let's see the second half and see if you can find a way back in there.
I think the thing for me, I mean, there's one,
There's one
obviously.
from Donny straight away.
As much as I can, I always try and have at least two up front. I'm not a fan of one striker.
Right. Does Daniel have a DM? Yeah. Well, he's only a winger. I'm just gonna put Kufur in here and hope for the best. I think he'll do okay. Could possibly swap him with Sanyol.
No,
Yeah,
I'd leave that.
I'll leave this one like this. He's more of a winger. Kufa wouldn't deliver anything on the wing, so let's hope for the best for Hornets with their 2 injuries and see if they can get back in. But BTEC are holding on. Not anymore. But they're back in it. Oh my goodness, 3-2.
BTEC in a goal fest.
Yeah. Another one. 6 goals last time out. Will it be 6 goals tonight? And who will they be for? It's a lot of
Just
action at the end there. They just managed to squeeze that one through, I think.
wow, and it was against the wing play.
They were hanging on for dear life at the end there. I mean, 14 shots, 10 on target, only getting 2 goals out of it. We were perhaps a little bit harsh on the new tactics at halftime, but the team seemed to find their feet in the second half. Not that the ratings would perhaps suggest that, but what do you make of this? Donny man of the match with an 8.
It doesn't say a lot for what the stats are going to say for BTEC, but I think you look at it again. Makaleli kept his 5. Lucio only went up to a 6. I mean, you'd expect that for a team that conceded 3, I suppose. I think what he's done is he's got a formation that attacks. Unfortunately, he's going to leave a lot of gaps.
Yeah, I mean, unlucky with the injuries to 2, maybe. I mean, Sean Davis, maybe not as much of a key player as Paul Scholes were. I think Paul Scholes can be really good. Unfortunately, that wasn't really his day today, and then he picked up an injury, so that wasn't brilliant. I mean, perhaps unlucky not to get the 3-3, but if you look at the stats for BTEC, they've got to be. I mean, they conceded 2, but it was on from 10 shots, so perhaps they're going to take this, aren't they? Be pretty pleased with that.
Oh yeah, especially after again. This is only the second game, but what you don't want to do is get into a rut because in a small season like this is, it can be difficult to come out of it. So he'll be delighted to pick up a win. They've got some good ratings there.
Yeah, and goal for.
Again, I think the franchise were perhaps slightly unfortunate, but I think he's got stuff he'll be happy with as well. So, but no, congratulations, BTEC.
Did quite well there. And where does that leave us? It leaves us at the end of the action. So if we went quickly through the results, if we start from the bottom, because that's the running order, obviously. A victory for the Swedes against Bolton Phoenix. Don't think Bolton will be that happy with that performance. They didn't change the tactic. I think maybe they should have against a quite a strong Swedish side. What do you think? Should they have gone more defensive, or I mean, in hindsight, we can clearly see they perhaps should have done something else. But were you surprised to see them so attacking?
I, it's a difficult one because again we're only now 2 games into it. I think people will have a better idea now that they've seen everyone home and away. What I would say is in both games, Valen have looked very good. So people will probably be conscious of that when they come up against them. I think Bolton, as I said at the time, I believe he said he was going to go all out attack. So there will be games where you might expect this to happen, but he's got enough quality there that he'll turn that around no problem.
Hmm. And yourself, it's a 2-1 defeat, but you said that Valen did really well. I mean, 3-1. They had exactly the same result against Chotley. They were 1-2 losers as well. So perhaps the result is not too bad for you, even though I can tell you were disappointed not to get the draw, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I was disappointed not to get a point, but I couldn't argue with the defeat. There were positives there to take, but ultimately, what it says is I think I'm possibly, or no, maybe Somerset's lost as well. The only team still with no points, so that's something we need to rectify quickly. But I think certain things worked for us, and I just need to tweak it a little bit, and it'll come off because at the end of the day, as we said, Chudley Cannons they're going to beat most teams in this league. So
Mhm.
to not get hammered in the way we did last week shows we've improved slightly, and that's
Yeah,
just about tweaking something else to improve again.
sounds good. And Sloths also a team that improved. I mean, I don't think they were never going to win this game. I don't think against Astor Athletic. I mean, we only have one finalist left in the league in this season, and it was Alf, and it's a tricky one to come up against. So they did slightly better, but Alf will be happy with his side Stackington performance. I think a 1-0 away from home, you can't really argue with that.
Yeah, and I think that's the best way to describe it. If Alf could get through the season doing the Astor performances at home and the Stackington performances away, he'll be absolutely delighted.
Yeah. Well, he'll probably go undefeated then if he does. So I'm sure he will be. Huge result up in Scotland for Midlothian there, beating Churchtown Massive 1-0 at home. Um, both of us were perhaps surprised there, but it's a good result for Midlothian, I think.
I think it's an excellent result for Midlothian. I think it's an excellent result for the league. I think both of us are experienced enough at the Super League that we shouldn't be writing anybody off. And I'm like I say, I think Churchtown will be disappointed. To be fair,
Hmm.
um, as much as anything, but no, fair play to Midlothian. They got the result, and their season's firmly underway.
Yeah, and then the action-packed game of the night, Hooligans against Panathinaikos 4-4. That was a bit of excitement there.
Yeah, and again, two managers who have had a long-standing relationship with the Super League. They know what it's all about, and they played out a Super League classic. It was probably the game of the night in terms of entertainment. I think there's stuff there that both will be happy with, stuff there that both won't be happy with. Um, and, it'll be interesting to see where they go from here.
Yeah, I mean, neither will be happy with conceding, as you mentioned. They'll be happy with some and unhappy with other. They'll be delighted to score 4 goals, but probably less so with conceding them. So they'll at least have positives to take away from it here. Perhaps I think for Hooligans more than for Panathinaikos because they had such a terrible first game. I mean, Panathinaikos are sitting on 4 points now, and with 7 goals scored in 2 games, they can be quite happy with that. Hools they've conceded 10 in 2 now, so that may be something that needs to be looked at. Jamie's Dragon Destroyers. That's a solid performance for them. They'll be delighted with that victory.
Yeah, that's a huge win for Jamie's team. Big performance by Robbie Keane in that second half. I think Ardsley that they'll be furious with what happened in that second half. I mean, and the first half that they just didn't turn up, and they won't be happy about that at all.
No, it's a shame for them there. I mean, after such a good result with 9 men last week, and then to come and do this is that's disappointing for them. Someone who will be delighted as well, especially with the result. I think to be fair with the performance as well, will be BTEC. They were eights across the board pretty much for his players, and they got a 3-2 win against a much fancied Hoddesdon side with a new formation. You think Ian he'll take that, won't he?
He'll definitely take it. It's a first win of the season. He scored some goals. Um, I think he'll be slightly concerned about conceding two, but then when you see the tactic he was up against, which was all set up to score goals,
Score a
that's
bunch of
what he'll
goals.
do. And the thing is, in the Super League, the one thing, unless you're Alf, who seems to have got it sussed completely, you are going to concede goals against teams of this quality.
hmm Yes, yes. Clean sheets are. I mean, I was going to say few and far between. We obviously had three last week. We have three this week as well. But even the good teams will have days where they concede quite a few, unless you're Stackington or Aston Athletic, obviously. So I think you're right. I think he will still look at that, even though he'll be happy with the 3 points for sure. Let's have a look at the table. How that I mean, perhaps not surprisingly, last year's finalist, Aston Athletic, they're ahead. They've conceded one goal. They've got 6 points. Alf will be happy, I think, with that.
Yeah, Alf will be delighted. I think his squad on paper is actually better than the Stackington team he took to the final.
hmm
So he's looking to build on that.
Yeah.
No surprise, was said to see Timmy's Chudley team up there as well. I mean, obviously, it's all hypothetical and stuff after two games, but you look at that, there's not that many surprises in terms of what we know of some of the managers who's in the top six. In terms of the squads, and you're looking at it, you'd probably say Bolton will probably look to get up there. BTEC will definitely look to get up there. Hooligans should really be getting up there if they can sort that defence out. But there's a long way to go. You know, any one of the 14 teams can still obviously make the top six. We are only two games in.
True.
It's just about, you look at that, and it obviously doesn't read well for myself or for Somerset Sloths, but
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, you can say to if you got to take the positives, at least you've had a goal. I mean, Somerset Sloths are yet to score, which was also a problem for the Sloths side last season. So perhaps there's something in the name there. If we just before we sign off have a brief look at the fixtures for next week, we can see that you'll be given a chance to redeem yourself against Parmouth Icos and see if you can get some goals on the board there. So that'll be an interesting game for you. I think for many that'll probably be the pick of the bunch, or at least one of the ones they'll be very interested in. What do you reckon against coming over against Parma next week?
it's always good fun. The build up to playing Palmer is always a laugh. I'm sure you can expect various bits and pieces from the two of us in our sort of friendly rivalry.
hmm
And like you say, hopefully, if we can build on the improvements we made this week, we can get a few more goals, get our first points of the season, and really kick on.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully so. And I think the other one that kind of stands out from my perspective is Aston Athletic at home to Hoddesdon Hornets. So that's going to be an interesting one if Craig persists with his wide attacking formation against the narrow sort of like block of defenders of Aston Athletic. That's going to be an interesting one. And interesting to see if Chutley can continue with picking up 3 points as they have done in the first two. They're away to Ryan's Bolton Phoenix. So that'll be an interesting one as well. To be fair, there's pretty much something to look forward to in all of the games. It's going to be tricky for Sloths to get their first goal. Ardsley are not the worst team, but as we saw tonight, Dragons put three on the board against them. So there's hope for everyone, I think.
Yeah, and looking at that, I would agree in your assessment there. I think that the one that has the potential for game of the night is Churchtown Vallon. I think those two going toe to toe could be sensational viewing if they both turn up and perform. I think, as you said, Bolton could give Chudley a lot to think about. Um, it'd be interesting when the polls go up on Twitter in the middle of the week to see what people think is going to happen with these games, because even games where you think you can gauge it, I mean, Dragons v Hooligans could be a really good game after what we've seen.
Hmm.
Midlothian BTEC, you would probably think BTEC will get the result there, but after what we've seen from Midlothian, it's not going to be as easy as you might think. Um, if anything, you're looking at Ardsley at home to Sloths, and you're looking at Palmer at home to Devils, thinking they're the only two where they should be bankers.
Yeah, well, I mean, I like you underplaying your own chances there, but if Palmer can let in four to against Hooligans, I think there's goals in that one for you next week, and I'll let you off the co-com so you don't have to suffer the curse, obviously. But we'll see how it goes. Um, Stephen, thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for joining at short notice. Kieran was unfortunately unable to join today, but it was great that you could step in with your expertise and your knowledge of the league and all the teams. It's a pleasure to have you on. And to everyone else out there, I would just like to say thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. The first week, if I can give you very briefly a couple of numbers, 121 unique viewers, a total of 65 hours of viewing time we've had already on the first two videos that we've put up. That's quite a lot of time of of people watching Championship Manager, but I'm very grateful for it. It makes it feel as if what we're doing is to the benefit of a lot of people. Over 40 subscribers already, so people getting notified when we put videos up, etc. It's really been great, and a lot of the thanks for that goes to you and your hard work, Stephen. Obviously, that's why I wanted to mention it with your blog and all that you do with the tweets and retweeting and everything. So thanks very much for that, and keep up the good work. It's really
Thank
appreciated.
Thanks for having me on. I think I'm scheduled to be on again in a few weeks, which I'm really looking forward to that broadcast actually. But no, thank you obviously for keeping the Super League alive. Thanks for everyone that watched. I've been watching as best as I can in between the games and stuff. I've been watching the comments, and it's good to see that it's not just the managers, but we've actually got fans of the Super League interacting as well. So really appreciating everyone that's getting involved in one way or another, whether it's reading the blogs, joining in the broadcasts. So, but no, the Super League is alive and well. Good night's entertainment, and again, thanks for having me on.
Always welcome. Always welcome. So with that, thanks very much everyone for watching, and hopefully see you again for the midweek show. And if not, then definitely back next weekend for the action. As you see on screen here, it is really seven crackers. There's not going to be a poor game in there. I can almost guarantee it. So good night, Stephen, and good night to everyone else out there.
Good night.